You're watching the 2018 Legatus Summit.
Thank you once again to Congressman Rothfuss and for this special presentation tonight. Hey, did you all enjoy your meal? Are you enjoying your meal right now? I just want to give a shout out. I have a real compassion for people who serve and for the people who are so behind the scenes. Chef Sean and his team, I think they certainly deserve a round of applause, and even our servers. And I don't know about you, but I'm pretty excited for tonight's keynote. I'll be calling up Mr. Bobby Rydell because I've got a few questions for him. And you know what? He can't lie to a priest, all right? I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Bobby Rydell. He is an American entertainment legend. You all know this. With a career starting as a 1950s teen idol. I was just going to say something about Justin Bieber, people, all right? To the present. Mr. Bobby Rydell draws crowds across every age group, nationality, and he's amazing as an international performing star as well. Bobby first took the stage as a professional drummer at the age of 19 and was a polished performer at the age of 9 and a polished performer at the age of 19. Bobby's recording career earned him 34 top 40 hits, placing him in the top 5 artists of his era. Bobby will share with us how applause became a meter throughout his life, and how we can apply applause simply in our lives, and how his faith was tested many, many times. As a reporter recently stated, Bobby Rydell is a true American treasure, and it is a privilege to share this stage with him. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Bobby Rydell. We're gonna have a good one.
Well, good night, folks. Thank you ever so much. It was a pleasure being here for Legatus.
That's my job, Mr. Rydell, just letting you know.
Well, you said everything, Bob.
Well, okay, you know, now that we're just sitting here,
Sure,
we're going to make this legitimate here.
Yes. Bless me, Father.
Exactly. Well, you've got quite the story, and what I'd love to do is just simply chat with you and learn a lot about you, because first of all, I know about you. The book that you have, Bobby Rydell, Teen Idol on the Rocks, A Tale of Second Chances.
Yeah.
I've learned so much about not just you, but also just about music in general. And so I have to first say that the title of your talk, the title of this applause meter of life, it's very intriguing. Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, we put this together with my event coordinator, Maria Nove, and, you know, it's been a big part of my life, you know. So you don't mind if I read from this, do you, Bob?
You can do whatever you want.
Thank you ever so much. God bless you.
Oh. Okay, for all you ladies, I kissed him, okay? Just let you know.
No, I do have a crucifix.
You did.
And it has
Kissed
never
his
left
ring.
my finger, my little finger, on my right hand since 1960.
I love it.
I
love that.
Real enough. I did the Perry Como show, and his priest was a guy by the name of Father Bob, was always with him. And Perry had this ring. And I went to Rome, and I went to a religious store, found this ring, and it's been there ever since.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. So applause is a form of acceptance or recognition, and it's something we all understand, and in which we've all taken part. You all just applauded me, based on maybe something that I have done in the past. Hopefully that all of you liked. You know. Think about the very first things a baby does. You know, when, say, he claps his hands.
Yeah.
Well, right? We do that to the baby. That's a form of acceptance, applause. When I was 7, 8 years old, that's the first time I ever experienced applause. Because my dad used to take me around to clubs when I was 7, 8 years old. Applauding was, you know, it was used by the Romans during the rise of the Roman Empire. Yep. Applause became a way for leaders to gauge the mood of supporters, sort of like an ancient poll. In my business, applause is a way a performance is accepted, a performer is recognized. Experiencing applause is a great feeling, but think about applauding someone is a great feeling too. Why is applause today only related to performances such as entertainment or sports? Why not everyday life, right? Including our faith. Throughout the next hour, I'm hoping everyone will understand, you know, what applause really means. As a matter of fact, in the Psalm 47, clap your hands, all you nations, shout to God with crowds of joy. So why not everybody applaud right now?
Praise God. I feel like I'm in a Baptist church right about now, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, wait.
Now, you grew up in South Philadelphia, which isn't even Philly, it's South Philly, right? And for those who are...
Are you kidding? Whereabouts?
South Philly.
Where?
Norristown.
That's not South Philly. But by any chance, do you happen to have my hubcaps? Oh, yeah. South Philadelphia was great, Father, really.
What was it like? I mean...
Well, you know, growing up as a kid, you know, basically in South Philadelphia, a lot of Irish, a lot of Italian, which I'm Italian. My real name is Roberto Luigi Rydell, which Luciano knows all about.
Bravo, Luciano.
Bravo, Luciano. And, you know, it was a blue-collar neighborhood. Matter of fact, when we were kids, we made up our games, Father.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't have the money to buy a bat, a glove, a ball, you know. And we used to have a game, I don't know if you remember, maybe some of you do, some of you don't, it was called half ball.
Yeah.
Ah, see, yeah. This was a game that was made up in South Philadelphia. You got your mom's broom, you cut off the bottom of the broom. That became your bat. And then you bought these little rubber balls, they were called pimple balls. And you cut them in half, and that's where half ball all came about. And the wonderful thing about half ball was you didn't even have to run bases. You just had the broomstick, and a guy would throw these half balls to you. Across the street was a single, over the first window, a double. Third window, a triple. If you hit it over the roof, a home run.
There you go.
Yeah, you know, that was our games back then. It was so pure, so simple back then. Everything was just, and you know what's unfortunate.
So you should have been a baseball player, but you got interested in music. How did you get involved in music?
My father, God rest his soul, I was 5 years old, and my father was a big band freak, and he took me to an afternoon performance to see the Benny Goodman Band. Now, I'm 5 years old. I didn't know who, but my father wanted to introduce me to big band music. So there I am sitting in the audience, and I'm looking at this wonderful orchestra, and I said to my father, I said, I don't know who that guy is, Daddy, but I want to be him.
Wow.
Matter of fact, it was Gene Krupa who was playing drums for the Benny Goodman Orchestra. Wow. And since that day, you know, I started playing drums. And to this day, I still, you know, have the instrument at home. And my father introduced me to that kind of music, Father.
But music and show business are two different things. How did you get involved in show business?
Once again, because of my dad. When I was like, if I had any talent within me whatsoever, my dad was the first one to see it. And I think it's written in your notes there, Father, that when my dad was overseas, I was 3 years old. So we're talking about 1945. And my mother used to write to my father, the baby's always singing, the baby's always singing. And my father wrote back, and I still have the letter to this day in my home, and he wrote, well, Jenny, who knows, maybe one day we'll have a star in the family.
Wow.
Is it? Yeah, and if I had any talent with me whatsoever, my dad used to take me around to clubs, like I said earlier, when I was 7, 8 years old. And I would get up and sing and do a couple impersonations, and people would do this.
Interesting.
And I said, wow, all I have to do is do that, and they do this? What a wonderful feeling.
Yeah.
So that's basically what I'm talking about.
But
Applause.
this idea of you really breaking out, you were on American Bandstand.
Oh,
And then like this whole teen idol thing kicked in.
Yeah.
It was literally, it was a game changer for you. What was that like to be on that show and then just to grow in humongous popularity?
well, I recorded for an independent label in Philadelphia called Cameo, which later became Cameo Parkway. And I had 3 records for Cameo that I signed with Cameo, I guess it was 1957.
Okay.
And I had 3 records that did absolutely nothing.
Oh.
And I said, well, probably this is really not for me. I was really happy playing drums. That was my first love, playing drums when I saw Gene Krupa. Bernie Lowe, who was the president of Cameo, wrote a song called Kissin' Time, which became my very first hit record back in the summer of 1959.
Okay.
And he went over to Dick Clark, and I don't know if many of you know, but you would have acetates or dubs, of a new recording.
Right.
So Bernie Lowe went over to Dick Clark because he turned down my first 3. He said, no, no, no. Bernie Lowe brought over Kissin' Time. Dick Clark dropped the needle on it, and he said, that's a hit.
Wow.
And that was the summer of 1959. And because I live in Philadelphia, and I've lived there all of my life, and I love it back east, and I can't wait for February the 4th.
So the
3rd time is a charm, Father. I'm sick of New England. It's enough already. Belichick, Brady, that's enough.
So that was 59, and then the 60s, crazy time for the world, but an amazing time for you. Copacabana, I mean, that's just, what was that like for you to be able to perform there at the age of 19 years old?
Very nerve-wracking.
Can only imagine.
I worked with a couple of people by the name of Noel Sherman and Lou Spencer, who staged and produced my act. And prior to getting into the Copacabana, we went to Pittsburgh, we went to Syracuse, New York to fine-tune the act. And Lou Spencer, God rest his soul, after I would come off stage, he would have a roll of toilet paper. And he'd roll out the roll of toilet paper, and he said, and then he would tear off a little sheet. He'd roll it out, he said, this is everything you did wrong. This is what you did right,
my.
On this
Oh my.
So by the time I got to the Copacabana, I was fine-tuned, I was ready. And when ladies and gentlemen, the Copacabana is proudly presents singing star Bobby Rydell, and all of the red coats and the white coats and the blue coats, go out there, Bobby, go out there, knock him dead, kill him. And of course, my mom and dad are there, they're sitting, in the front row, and my opening song was Lots of Livin' from Bye Bye Birdie.
Yep.
And I started, there are chicks, just like, my father went, oh my God. But it took me about 4 bars, maybe possibly 8 bars, and then relax. But, to be the only entertainer at that particular age, 19 years old, to work at Copa was a nice feather in my cap.
I can imagine. And you just mentioned Bye Bye Birdie with Anne Margaret, and that was Copacabana and now Hollywood. I'd love to hear about that experience.
Well, matter of fact, I screen tested with Anne, and matter of fact, Anne and I talk every couple of months or so just to see how, we're all doing, and she just lost her husband not too long ago, Roger Smith, who was on Sunset Strip, remember? And we screen tested, and Anne read some lines for the director, George Sidney, marvelous director. And then, of course, we sang, one of the tunes that we did in Bye Bye Birdie was, one boy, one special boy, one girl, one special girl. And Mr. Sidney said, okay, thank you ever so much. I went back home. I'm home 2 weeks. My manager at the time was a man by the name of Frankie Day. His real name, Francesco Colchi. And he said, you just landed the part of Hugo Peabody.
Wow.
And it was amazing. It was amazing, Father, really. I mean, just the people who were in the movie, Paul Lynde,
Sure.
Dick Van Dyke, Janet Leigh, Maureen Stapleton, and Margaret.
Sure.
And me? You know.
But it's changed from music and now to Hollywood. What was that like? Was there?
I really didn't like Hollywood, Father. You know,
Okay.
I'm an East Coast guy. You know, I'm a big sports fan. One of my very dear friends who was here, I don't know how many years ago, Frankie Avalon. You know,
Hello.
and we, since 1985, Frankie Avalon, Fabian, and myself, we do a show called The Golden Boys. And we started it in
Sure.
1985. We're still doing it today, 2018, but the show has changed from The Golden Boys to The Olden Boys. What was the question? I forgot.
Now, how do you stay grounded? I mean, there are a lot of people who are going to Hollywood now and just doing anything, even selling their soul, just to be on screen. How did you stay grounded? You're 19 years old, you're a teen idol. What kept you?
Well, you know what, Father? I think it was basically and ultimately the faith. And being Italian, the family being Catholic, me being Catholic, the love, the warmth, and respect, you know, that we had, you know, throughout the family was absolutely wonderful. And I think that's what really kept my head, you know, at a good level, rather than going, wow, you know, here I am, Bobby Rydell, boom, you know.
Listen,
But I was always a neighborhood guy, you know.
Well, maybe that might be the case. You met Frank Sinatra. He calls you a good friend. He calls you. I mean, how do you maintain that when you say that your faith keeps you grounded in your family? What did you do in your faith that helped keep you grounded, besides go to confession? There it is again.
You know, that's, I was married, excuse me, I get a little choked up. I was married for 36 years. My first wife, Camille Carmela Quattrone. We had 2 wonderful children, and we got married in 1968 at Stella Maris Catholic Church in South Philadelphia.
Okay.
And in 2003, she passed away with breast cancer. And I was lost. I was totally lost. And truthfully, you know, I was kind of angry at the guy. I was kind of angry at God. But as the years progressed, the months, the weeks, the years, yada, 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 so on and so forth, I figured that he's got a plan. He absolutely has a plan for me.
Sure.
And he absolutely did.
And you've experienced a ton of applause in your life. You were on so many shows. I mean, it's just almost impossible to recount how popular you are as an American teen idol. And then the music industry kind of grows a little bit with this invasion of these British singers.
Oh, yeah.
Like the Beatles.
Oh.
How did that change the industry for you?
Oh, well, you know, totally destroyed, you know, all of the destroyed all of the American artists. Matter of fact, in 1963, I recorded my last hit record. My last million seller was a song called Forget Him, which I recorded in London, England. A gentleman by the name of Tony Hatch wrote the song. While there, Anne Margaret and I did a command performance for the royal family,
Wow.
and then I went on tour with a young lady by the name of Helen Shapiro, a really fine singer in the UK. So we're traveling on the bus in the middle of the UK, and all of a sudden the bus stops, and Helen Shapiro says, "They're the Beatles." It's 1963. I started looking around the bus for cockroaches. I didn't know what she was talking about. They all came on the bus, you know, the original 4, they knew me.
Wow.
You know, and they went on there, and I figured, well, you know, 4 nice guys, they're probably, doing a cabaret gig, they're going to a dance thing, this, that, whatever. Who knew? 6 months later, I'm back home in Philadelphia and I'm watching Ed Sullivan.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, boom, the Beatles. I said, I met those guys. I could kick myself in the rear, Father, for not having a foot in the middle of the UK to like 10, 11 o'clock at night, a picture with the four of those guys and me.
And so the industry changes and things change for you. Popularity can go up and down.
Absolutely.
How do you deal with that? How did you stay rooted in all of that?
I just kept working, Father, because just as you said, there's so many, ups and downs and peaks and valleys of the business. And as long as you're able to keep working and nurture your craft and, just stay in there, and God gives you the faith to stay in there. And you figure, sooner or later, something's going to turn around. Mm-hmm. And it did. Everything turned around back in 1985 when my manager had the idea to put these 3 Italian guys from South Philadelphia who were, quote, teenage idols, Frankie Avalon, Fabian, and myself. And we started that tour, and then from 1985 to this day, 2018, everything has been absolutely wonderful where I forget who, it's a gentleman who used to be a waiter at the Copacabana. We used to call him Tony Lip.
Okay.
And his son is now a producer. And he called me, and they're making a movie about the Copacabana, and they're going to use a guy who's me.
Wow.
In this movie at like 19 years old. I said, wow, that's fantastic, great.
Does that change you? I mean,
No.
How have you changed?
I haven't changed at all, Father.
Wow.
No, I just love to talk to people, go up, sign autographs, take pictures. I'm just a neighborhood guy. I really am, And most of the entertainers who came out of South Philadelphia, like Frankie Avalon, like Fabian, like myself, like Chubby Checker,
wow.
Al Martino, Buddy Greco, Mario Lanza. We were just neighborhood guys, and things started happening. But you could never lose, you could never lose those roots where it all came from.
So the applause is back on top. People are just celebrating your career. And then, like all things, good news and bad news.
Yeah.
How do you deal with some of the bad news, especially you mentioned it a little bit before about your wife?
Exactly. When Camille passed away, and as I said earlier, I thought, my wife was looking so much forward to the golden years, and God took her away from me, And earlier, like I said, I was kind of mad. But like I said earlier, He had some kind of a plan for me. And back in, I think it was 2010. Yes, July 9th, 2010. I had to have major surgery, and that was a double transplant of a new liver and a new kidney.
Oh my.
Yeah, and that all happened because, I had nobody, after Camille passed, I had nobody to talk to, nobody to laugh with, nobody to smile with, nobody to cry with, nobody to tell your stories to. So I turned to alcohol. And that's what happened. Then God, in His infinite wisdom, sent me a wonderful. Sent me a wonderful lady who is now my wife, Linda, who we just celebrated our 9th wedding anniversary.
You gotta stand. Yes. Congratulations. Absolutely beautiful.
And if it wasn't for her, Father, I wouldn't be here today. She was the greatest caregiver. Mm-hmm. I mean, she took care, and I was on death's doorstep. But once again, God had this plan in mind for me. And the plan that I think He wants me to relate to all of you people who are Catholic and believe in God and believe in our faith and trust in our faith. The thing that I think God wanted me to do because of the double transplant was to get all the people that I talk to, whether it be here or whether I'm doing my show, to get involved with organ donation. And that's, I think, the message that God sent me, and that's the message I try to give everywhere I perform, because if it wasn't for organ donation, you know, I call it, and it truly is, the gift of life.
Absolutely.
And I try to express upon everybody when I do my shows how important it is. If you're not an organ donor, as a favor to me, become an organ donor, because it truly is the gift of life. And I think that's what God had in plan for me.
That's beautiful. And your family, I know that your father passed away in just the year 2000, and then just more bad news in the early 2000s, right? And you're living with your mother at this point, and so you've got some amazing women in your life, but no one more amazing than obviously the woman who brought you into this world. Can you tell us a little bit about your mother?
She was evil. I mean, folks, she was an evil, mean person. My father was my champion.
Wow.
You know, my father was absolutely my champion. My mother, you could never satisfy her. Nothing was ever right, you know, you could never. To the point where my child, my daughter Jennifer, she was 10 years old, and she was doing Oliver at her school, and she had the lead song, and she was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. She came home, right, from the play, my wife Camille, myself, Jennifer, and she said, "I sing just like my daddy."
Oh.
My mother said, "You'll never be what your father is.
Oh.
Your father was making money when he was 10 years old." I went, "Jeez." It wasn't happy. It wasn't a happy family with, you know, and I don't know why God left me on this cross. I don't know what he did. Because my dad passed away first.
That's right.
My wife passed away second, and I was left with her.
But probably because no matter what, family is completely imperfect. You proved something, that you are a family, and that is what keeps you grounded.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you know, when Camille and I were married, we were both brought up Catholic. You know, I was an altar boy for 5 years at the Epiphany Parish. And back then, of course, the Mass was done in Latin, which I loved the Mass in Latin. I really missed the Mass in Latin. And at that time, you had book or bell, and I had book. I went up to the right side of the altar, and the priest is reading the epistle, and I'm waiting for him to read the epistle to go to the left side of the altar to read the gospel. And remember, the Bible and the wooden stands were heavy. And I'm 10 years old, and I bow, and I come down, you know, you make the V,
Yep.
and then you genuflect in front of the tabernacle. Well, as I'm coming down the right side of the altar, the pages are going. I'm 10 years old. I figure Father's going to lose his place. I take one hand, and I go like this, you know, to put the page. Boom! The book fell, pages all over the altar, you know. This was the 9 o'clock Mass. We have all the old Italian ladies there, all dressed in black. Oh, Dio, Gesù Cristo! Needless to say, when I got back in the sacristy, the priest who served the Mass was Father Galuli. Oh, Father.
So
But-
can we sign him up to serve for tomorrow's liturgy?
But of course, my children are all born and raised Catholic, you know. And my son went to Waldron Academy, a marvelous Catholic private school. My daughter went to Marian Mercy. And then my son went to St. Joe Prep. Then he went to Villanova. And then, what?
No, Linda is letting you know that you've confused your children like my mother does to me and my brothers and sisters.
What'd I do?
Jennifer was St. Joe's, Villanova.
Roberts Villanova, Jennifer is
Yeah, well, St. Joe University. I said,
So Linda, can you come up here? Because I think we need to do some marriage counseling.
yes, I think so. Oh, God.
And this is so beautiful because she is very much a part of your entire life to the point where she's telling you what your children's names are. Right? This is amazing. But talk about stability, right?
Well, yeah, like I said, God sent her to me. There is no doubt in my mind that God meant her for me.
That is really
Yeah.
beautiful. Now, you faced your biggest test in the spring-ish, summer-ish of 2012. Can you tell us a little bit about that? The transplant.
Oh, that. I think I said it was a couple of years earlier. That's right.
That's why I'm here.
Thank
Bobby.
you ever
That's
so
why
much,
I'm
Father
here.
Leo. Yeah, it was July 9th of 2012. We met back in 2007, babe, right? And whew, we got married in 2009, and then all of a sudden, she found out that I had a major problem with alcohol, you know, and once again, that all stemmed from Camille passing away at
Sure.
60 years old in 2003. And that's what, I was on death's doorstep, you know. I was 2 weeks away from dying. And Luciano knows a very dear friend of ours who was my surgeon. His name, Cataldo Doria. We call him Aldo. He was my surgeon. He put in my liver and he put in my kidney. And like I said earlier, you know, Linda was the one who really didn't know how much I drank. And I drank a lot. And when it came down to the nitty-gritty, she really became, you know, my extreme caregiver. After the surgery was completed, I saw this Dr. Ramirez at Jefferson Hospital in Philadelphia. And he said, I said to him, I said, I thought that I was the primary recipient of the liver given by our donor, a young girl by the name of Julia, 21 years old, hit by a car.
Wow.
Okay, Father? Now, there was a little girl, 4 years old, who got 25% of Julia's liver. I got 75% of Julia's liver. Dr. Ramirez, you know, when I said, I thought I was the, you know, the primo, the number one guy. He said, Bobby, he said there were 14 people in front of you waiting for a liver. I said, what? He said 14 people turned down a split liver. In other words, if you take one liver out, you put it in somebody else, it's like removing an old battery, putting in a new battery. When you split a liver, it becomes much more complicated surgery, right? And I said, wow, 14. And my wife and I always talk and say, I wonder how many, you know, of those 14 people are still alive today. And Dr. Ramirez, I'll never forget him, he said, Bobby, somebody up there likes you.
Yeah.
I said, wow, you know, that's the truth, yeah.
What would you say to people who are going through some difficult times? They may have not had any of the successes that you've had, and even certainly not the people that support you. Maybe they've had a family full of your mothers in that whole thing there. So,
Oh, my God.
what would you say to someone who's going through a difficult time and they look at you and think, you've got a blessed life, but obviously they don't know all of it?
What more can I say, Father? I mean, I'm not the most religious guy in the world. I try to make Mass every time because I'm on the road so much, but I have a solid faith in my religion and my Lord Jesus Christ. When I go to bed every night, back home, I have a rosary hanging on my side of the bed, and also I have on my nightstand a scapular. Mm-hmm. Because I figure if I'm going to flute a coop, the scapular gets you in there right away, There's no locals.
It depends
There's
on what
an
color
express.
scapular, Bobby. Got to let you know.
Oh, really? I didn't know there was a
It's the
color with a
brown
scapular.
one
Oh,
that
that's
we're-
what I got. I got
That's
a
what
brown
got
one. I got a brown one. So you go right on the express. You don't even have to see St. Peter. You go right to God, and that's it.
Just going to go off script for
no,
just
what would you say? I don't know. Who knows? Are they Catholic? Are they Protestant? Are they this or that, the other thing? You just have to have a lot of faith, and I do have a lot of faith, Father, and I hope everybody here in this room has a lot of faith. How can we, get that across to, I don't know, millions and millions of people? You just, whatever, like I said earlier, whatever God gives you in life, there's always something more that He has in store for you.
That's beautiful.
That's exactly what He had for me.
That is beautiful. I'm just going to go off script, and I just want to ask you a couple other questions because it's fun for me to do, and I never have a chance to. When was the last time a priest has ever interviewed you? No, don't even answer that because.
No. Interviewed me?
Yeah. I'm it.
You the guy.
We've got to put this down in Legatus history, ladies and gentlemen.
Now, I have a very dear friend in Scranton, where my wife is from. His name Father Sika. I've known Father Sika for the better part of 40 years. And he was teaching at Pocono Central Catholic. And I was doing a show, and I met Father Sika, and he said, Bobby, would you do a benefit for me?
Wow.
And I said, certainly, Father. He said, how much would you want? I said, nothing, Father. I said, I don't want any money. I said, you have to pay the band. Musicians want to get paid. This was about 40 years ago, and we've become like this. And he's a wonderful, wonderful guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's your favorite food? Because I'm the
Anything Italian.
anything Italian,
Yeah.
huh? And that's it.
Maybe chicken soup. I don't know.
And do you have a hero or even perhaps a favorite saint that you kind of think about whenever you're going through difficult times?
Who's ever available at the time. I don't care. Could be St. Anthony, St. Jude. Who's ever around, I'll call, I'll talk, I'll pray. I sound like I'm Jewish all of a sudden. Look at it.
And is there a, you're speaking to this group of people who, first of all, love hearing your story. Did you all enjoy hearing his story?
Thank you. Applause.
We are going to have the great fortune of hearing you tomorrow.
Yeah, I can't wait for that.
Are you excited about that, ladies and gentlemen, huh?
Going to have a marvelous orchestra, really a great orchestra, from the Orlando area, matter of fact.
This is going to be exciting. But before that, is there anything that you would just like to share with us? Any message, any inspiration, any other thoughts before we give you an awesome meter for life?
Oh, God, Father, I think we more or less, covered it all. I don't think there's anything I can really say to this congregation here in this room, because we're all Catholic. We believe in our Lord. We believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, our faith, which has kept us, through good and bad and whatever the times may be. All I can say is that you just, you keep believing in our Lord Jesus Christ and believe in your faith, and everything will be fine.
Well, Before we go, I'm going to take full advantage of this opportunity and do a selfie with Mr. Just letting you know, all right? I don't care what you say. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bobby Rydell!
Thank you. Applause! Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Thank you ever so much. Thank you.
Please join us for the 2019 summit at the Monarch Beach Resort in Dana Point, California, January 24th through the 26th, 2019.